Hello, everyone. I'm Kaylee Holtzgren, editor of Chief Marketer, and I will be kicking off the webinar with you today, How to Foster Engagement Without Cutting Prices. There's a way to keep your promotions engaging, even during trying economic times, without lowering your prices. But how do you determine where to apply customer rewards and where to give discounts at checkout? We'll cover that and a lot more in today's webinar. Quick note on Q&A. If during the presentation today, anyone from the audience has a question, just please type it in the Q&A box, and we'll try to get to as many of them as we can at the end of the presentation. So now I'd like to introduce our panelists. We have Scott Lapp, Director, Incentives Marketing at Blackhawk Network. He works with Blackhawk Network clients and partners to help leverage data and insights for effective reward use within their incentive programs. Scott has more than 25 years of experience providing solutions that drive awareness and adoption across industries like technology, professional services, and nonprofit. Welcome, Scott.
Thank you.
We also have George James, Senior Director, Client Development at Blackhawk Network as well. George has over 20 years of experience in program development and operational oversight. For the past 17 years at Blackhawk Network, George has led consumer loyalty and reward solutions for clients like Staples and the Home Depot. He has expertise in securing and managing strategic client relations and programs, growing existing accounts, and building strong executive relationships. He's a trusted advisor, relationship builder, and change agent with a track record. So welcome, Scott and George. Would love for you to kick off the presentation, and I'll be back later for some Q&A.
Thank you, Kaylee. Great introduction, and then you missed the backstage chat where we're talking about opening up with Eye of the Tiger, but we decided to cut that and just get right into the presentation. So we appreciate you all joining us today. Real quick, some of the things that we're going to cover. We'll give you a brief introduction to Blackhawk Network, in case you've never heard of us, and a little bit about what we do on the incentive side. We're going to go through some economic trends that we're all seeing, fortunately and unfortunately, that are really changing the promotional landscape. We'll talk about reward-based promotions and what they mean and how they can be effective. And they'll go through some key takeaways and then open up for Q&A afterwards. George and I will be having a dialogue through. Even though we'll be addressing questions at the end, please feel free to enter them into the Q&A section, and then we will address them all at the end. So really quickly, Blackhawk Network. When we talk about Blackhawk Network is a global payments company situated in about 28 different countries, providing loyalty commerce solutions to some of the world's biggest brands. From the incentive side, what we look at with George and myself and the incentives market is we look at providing reward solutions that are going to help you drive engagement and loyalty among the people that mean the most to you. So from your employees that are making your products or your solutions, your salespeople that are out selling them, and your customers that are help buying them. But we also look to research incentives, so providing rewards that help drive meaningful and actionable insights.
Hey, Scott, if I can just say,
yes,
the real quick summary is right reward, right time, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's what we do, and that's what we specialize in, right? Every reward is a little bit different, and we want to get the right reward to the right person.
Absolutely. All right, so economic impact on consumer behavior. You know, there's the old saying, and it's not a compliment, that may you live in interesting times. And I would say over the last couple of years, we've absolutely been living in interesting times. And we're going to go through a little bit of those and then talk about how it's changed how we buy. If we look at it right now, consumer behavior is changing. We're at an interesting confluence where, you know, those current economic trends coupled with mobile adoption and mobile technologies has created this perfect storm to change how we view commerce. I mean, if you think about from the past couple years since early 2020, who would have thought that our parents and even our grandparents would be ordering food from Grubhub or buying their groceries through Instacart? And that was just something that was not even heard of. But because of everything that's happened, those behaviors have changed. We look at trends like the rise of the hybrid shopper. So how we look at how we buy. We're looking online. We're finding a store that has what we want, that or that can get it quick, and then we're placing a purchase, and then we're going in store to pick it up. So we're not just hopping in the car to drive errands and stopping into store X to buy this product. We're doing a lot of that work ahead of time. We're doing mobile showrooming. We're looking at our phones to find who has the product, what's the price. So a lot of that research is being done. But all of this is saying is we're changing how we view commerce and how we purchase, and our promotions need to keep up with that, with those dynamics. So what are some of those trends that are hitting our consumers and brands? We've really identified four, and I think we can all agree that the pandemic was just a huge impact on our behavior and driving, being locked down for so long. And then even as restrictions started emerging, people were still hesitant to maybe venture out of their home, or a lot of those behaviors that they learned through the pandemic lockdown times, they stuck, whether out of habit or out of convenience. So there was a great impact on how we consume, but it also kind of changed our mindsets on what's important to us. We saw this rise, and we'll talk a little bit about people really connecting with brands and looking for that element of social responsibility. Were you in it with me when we were all locked down? What were some of the messages that you were talking about and putting in markets? So really changing how we view our shopping habits and then how we view a brand. We went from the pandemic to supply chain issues. So we're locked down. There's not a lot of goods being made or distributed. So that created a lag in when we can get the products we wanted. We were flush with cash because we were all at home during the pandemic, but then we came out of it and there were no products we had because there were none built. Now we're dealing with it's kind of the opposite, to where chains or manufacturers looked at, people want these products. If you think about, everyone wanted to redo their home patio or build an outdoor living room. After the pandemic, people are going back to restaurants or going out again. Thus, bets that manufacturers and retailers made to say we need to have more outside furniture now have created an overstock item. So we're still trying to figure out our supply chain and what people want. Then you add inflation. So because of all of these issues, the price of goods and services has gone up. So we've really kind of shifted some of our habits, maybe from I need it to, or I want it to I need it. And now we're looking at the possibility of a recession. Some would say we already are. Some economists are saying it's going to be weird. It's going to be the recession type of recession or economic condition that we've never seen before. But now we're seeing, the great resignation going to people worried, am I going to have a job, or is there going to be layoffs? So again, all of these things are impacting how people buy and how people want to be marketed to.
Yeah, Scott, I would agree. I mean, I haven't seen this type of situation since maybe 07, 08 in the financial crisis, right? Where people people are actually hurting, right? They've come out of the pandemic and we really haven't seen it, but now you're hearing about layoffs from some of the biggest organizations, and it feels like it's daily, right? And when that happens, then discretionary spending is going to slowly cease, right? Or you're going to have to really fight for that discretionary spending, because they're going to tighten their belts, and consumers are smart that way. So I think you hit the nail on the head with, it is truly a perfect storm, right? We've kind of weathered this whole pandemic and supply chain issue, and we've begun to reimagine kind of how to market and the marketing strategies that we use, and then leaning into kind of this digital ecosystem, right, that it is brought our way. But we have to differentiate when it comes to the pullback on consumer spending.
Absolutely. So one of the things we do at Blackhawk is we do a lot of research, and I'll talk a little bit more about that in a bit. But we did around April timeframe of this year, we started looking at how consumers are planning to change as a result of inflationary pressures. And no surprise, what we're seeing is 58% are planning to change their shopping behavior, seeking to use more promotions. So people that may have emerged from the pandemic flush with cash and we're dealing with supply chain issues to where, if I find that television I wanted, I'm going to buy it. That price, not as sensitive. I'm going to buy it because I want it and it's in stock, and I may not see that again. Now things are turning. Again, that shift from want to need. That idea that things are in stock now, maybe where they weren't before. People are going to rely more on promotions now than they did prior, and maybe even prior to the pandemic. So as George mentions, we've been at this game a long time, and some of the areas that we saw around 2008, 2009, where promotions became very important, we're going to see it today. And I think a lot of the brands that we've worked with that decided not to have promotions during the pandemic and during that initial supply chain are really starting to rethink their strategy.
Yeah, Scott, I think the good news, though, is promotions are completely different, right? 2008 and 9, a little more old school, but I think we've kind of changed that concept a little bit. So I think that's exciting.
Absolutely. Another thing to kind of reinforce that is, this idea of empathy. This is from an Accenture study where, and again, that idea of people's priorities changing and wanting to be connected with a brand and wanting to feel that a brand cares. I always joke, if you ever saw Mr. Mom, the schooner tuna ads, we're in it with you and we're lowering prices during this time of inflation. If you haven't watched it, go Google that. Go watch the YouTube. It's a funny commercial. But this idea that by running a promotion, you're creating a connection with your consumer. You're creating a sense of empathy, whereas you may not have had to before. You may have thought, well, I don't need to. And even going into certain times, you may not see that a promotion is necessary. But creating that empathy is important, and people are looking at that. So as you're looking at your strategy for next year on how to drive engagement and awareness, promotions become a great way to build that empathy. So now if we kind of look at it, what is the question of the day? For us as marketers, looking at that perfect storm, we're all being challenged to drive demand. We know that we're in this new reality where consumers have changed their behaviors, but now we're dealing a situation with a recession looming. How do we do it without sacrificing profit? We all are responsible for maintaining the financial health of our company. And are there promotional tools? Are there levers that we can pull that's going to drive awareness and loyalty without having to sacrifice that profitability? And what we'll do today is George and I will go through some statistics and studies that we've done, as well as some real world examples, and hopefully I'll have a very lively dialogue with the audience. So with that, we're going to look for some engagement. So the first poll that we have:
disconnected, smartphone connected.
How has the economy been affected by recent economic factors? This could be both your company as well as individually. We'd love to hear what are you seeing personally? All right. The poll is out. So we're seeing it's definitely growing to the negatively impacted area. Nobody's been positively impacted. I guess we don't have any people from those industries here. All right. So I would say that the way the poll is coming across, it definitely reflects this idea of we're in a unique situation. We have, you listen to, news reports, or you listen to analysts, and they're talking doom and gloom, and they're talking about, this recession, that recessionary trends that we're in. But what we're seeing is it's unlike anything we've ever seen before. People are sitting on cash that they had as a result of, not spending during the pandemic, or results of maybe wage increases or bonuses that happened during the Great Resignation. So people have money to spend, depending, and this is a general statement because it doesn't affect everyone the same way, but people have money to spend. So even though prices are going up, they may not realize that in their daily lives. It's coming out to almost be a wash, to use kind of a callous term. And I think as marketers, from our business standpoint, we're seeing a lot of those same trends. We're seeing that demand for our products and solutions has not slowed as much as it would have in past recessionary times. The question is, how long is that going to last? If wages are changing, if people are spending through those reserves, if prices still continue to go up, or if they even stabilize but not go back down, what is that going to do for demand? So I think we're in a very interesting time, and we can look back to 2008, 2009 for some guidance, but we're almost in uncharted waters and need to see how that is going to be moving forward.
Hey, Scott, I think we should talk about no noticeable change, right? 42%.
Mm-hmm. Yes, exactly.
Listening. I think what I see here, right, is you do have this concept of the wave coming in, and people not really seeing that now. The impact is 6 months from now. And I can tell you, just in the marketplace, we've seen through the pandemic, we've seen these value-based incentives really everything shut down, right? The concept supply was limited, and people didn't need to run an incentive to sell their product. And I think now, as you begin to see what's happening and it lingering on, we've seen clients come back into this area that haven't been doing this for 3 to 4 years, right? And so they are slowly making their way back. But I would agree. I mean, I think consumer spending is still strong now. I do think as unemployment rates go up, we're going to see a negative chart change to that. So I want to acknowledge that, I could very well see that there some of these folks haven't seen the change yet.
Absolutely. All right. So now what we want to do is talk a little bit about the concept of promotions and how they play with it, given the economic factors that we highlighted above. Specifically focused on one type of promotion, or really two types of promotions, and how they play off together, and this concept of reward-based promotions. So when we talk about reward-based promotions versus discount-based promotions, pretty straightforward, but we all know about discounts. You go in and that code, or that set of tires that you're looking at, or whatever product is X% off. So you are realizing that benefit immediately at the POS when you purchase that product. When we look at reward-based promotions, we're really talking about promotions that are, a post-purchase reward. So you purchase an item, you receive a reward on top of the item that you purchased. So we're really going to kind of look at these two promotion types and compare and contrast them from multiple factors. A lot of the research that we're presenting here is based upon a research study that we did with Aberdeen, so the analyst group Aberdeen, where we looked at global marketers. So we went to marketers like yourselves to ask a series of questions to gauge the performance of one promotion type versus the other, and see how they impacted their business. So what we'll do is we'll go through some of the results of that survey and talk about the economic levers and the impact, and then we'll go into more detail. So what we noticed right off the bat, and when we talk about this Aberdeen study, we've done it 2 years in a row. 2019 was the first year. We performed it again in 2020, or 2021, excuse me, and then we were performing it again in 2023. So it's every other year cycle. We're excited to see the results on this particular time span, because it will really give us a kind of a look into how did marketers and promotion types perform pre-pandemic, how do they perform during the pandemic, and how do they perform post-pandemic. So it's going to give us a great 3-year or multi-cycle look in time as to, did promotions change? Did some of the economic levers change? But what we found for the first 2 cycles that we ran this report is that reward-based promotions work better than discounts across multiple different levers. So what we saw is from driving sales lift, from driving consumer loyalty, and from overall profitability. And then kind of really important was protecting a premium brand image. Reward-based promotions outperformed instant discounts in some ways exponentially. So some of the results that we saw from a company revenue, almost a 58% lift in revenue versus reward-based promotions. And then about a 35% improvement in customer lifetime value and a 32% on cross-sell, upsell revenue. So significant differences between running the 2 promotions. And when we turn it over to George in a bit, he's going to talk a little bit about the real world experiences and how that comes to life. But again, what we're seeing is, if your goal is to drive increased sales while protecting brand image and driving customer loyalty, reward-based promotions just work better across all those dimensions. The other thing we looked at in a different study around the same time is we went to consumers and asked and positioned multiple different buying scenarios. So the idea was, given you're purchasing 4 tires, you're purchasing a new, you're switching telecom providers, multiple different scenarios. We positioned it 2 like products, but 2 different or multiple different promotion types. And what we found is, where there was concern from marketers that we spoke to, the idea of friction with a reward-based promotion, consumers liked them. There was no sense of a friction. We're having conversations time and time again where an instant discount is just easy. It's easy to run. It's easy to manage. It's easy to navigate from their perspective. It's easy to communicate with the customer. But what we've seen is the customer actually responds better to those reward-based promotions. And we were able to show that. So now we have a situation where, from a marketer's perspective, they're performing better from a bottom line standpoint, and from a customer perspective, they're performing better from their view as well. So we were very excited to see both sides of that coin.
Yeah, I love this example about the tires, because it's one of my least favorite purchases, right? It's $1,000, $1,200. I don't get to play with it. It's not electronics. It's none of that. And having a reward card associated with that purchase, I have $175 coming to me that I can do whatever I want to, right? So it does give me that opportunity, and it gives me that excitement. Whereas maybe buying tires, some people love to buy tires. I look at it as a total expense, right? So there are definitely some thoughts around just consumer satisfaction and excitement when it comes to reward-based promotions.
Absolutely. So that, George, I wanted to kind of run through some scenarios with you to kind of talk about what we mean by reward-based promotions and how the mechanics work.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's really just break this down, right? So the reward-based promotion, the big differentiator is a validation or verification step that happens, right? So the customer goes out and purchases the reward. interacts in a way with either a web platform or in a more traditional standpoint, mails it in. So I'll walk you through a traditional aspect and then more of what we're seeing today. And then, depending on that verification and that reward is processed, a reward card will be sent out to that customer. I think the big component here over the last probably 2 or 3 years is the concept is really flipped and went completely digital, right? To the point where we are engaging with brands at their POS. Brands have begun to change their POS systems. It's been easier to understand and validate. And so this process, where it used to be about 35 days to process a reward back to a consumer, is within days, right? We want to get it down to where it competes near instantly with an instant discount. And the reason why Scott and I are here talking about it is the 3-letter acronym that sits in this cycle today is the customer relationship management, right? Everyone is looking to try to build loyalty and build a relationship with their customer. That is key with a reward-based promotion, right? We are capturing data. We have to capture the consumer data to send that reward to that consumer. So in this cycle today, it's about 3.5, 4 minutes to go through, go online, be able to verify, take a picture of your receipt, send it in, capture their email address. A lot of brands put a dollar amount on an email address. And if we're sending a physical card, typically it's mostly digital now. So we are being able to turn around and send that digital reward directly to that consumer, and then ultimately getting that consumer back for a second or third visit to the brand, and returning and spending that reward, recycling the dollars back into the brand.
All right.
And there's really 2 schools of thought here as far as reward-based promotions, right? This is a more newer experience or theory per se, and it's really around promotion power, right? We know that a traditional instant discount of $50 is a $50 discount you're going to give everyone that selects that product and walks through and purchases that product. With a reward-based promotion, and we're using 72%, I would say it's probably more like 45 to 65% redemption rate. So because the consumer is verifying their purchase, you're not going to have that consumer that needed to buy that product and didn't care that there was an everyday low price on that product. They needed it, they're buying it, and they're not engaging in this promotion. But those value seekers, those people that are struggling, right? Those people that are looking at their discretionary dollars, they're getting involved and they're making that purchase. And so if you compare the two, right, with a 72% redemption rate, or what your redemption, you should be able to offer more in a rebate back to that consumer. So offering additional savings back to that consumer at the same cost as that instant discount. And this is more of a traditional look, right? And really what we're comparing here is an equal value instant discount to an equal value rebate. But truly the cost for that brand is a lot less on the rebate because of that redemption rate, right? Knowing that you're not going to have 100% of the people redeem, the average cost of delivering that promotion to that consumer is less expensive. So, brands are not going to be, or the consumers are not the only ones that are impacted with an economic downturn. The brands are absolutely impacted, and you all will be asked to do more for less, with less. And so it's important to look at this. This is more, driving the budget and making more with a smaller budget. All right, so I really love this. This is really our customer journey with reward-based promotions, right? So it begins with the redemption process, like I showed on the previous slide. Then there's a verification concept, and then the reward is generated and delivered. With that, and what we're seeing, and this is more of the concept that we are delivering back to the brands, is this remarketing aspect, right? We call it smart incentives, or kind of AI incentives, right? The idea is we're capturing consumer data. And in this journey, like I said, 3.5 to 4 minutes, we have the ability to ask, 3 or 4 questions why they're going through this process, right? It's not, it's extremely insightful, right? Not only are you getting the consumer demographics, but you're getting questions on possibly was the store associate knowledgeable, right? How many folks live in your household? Simple questions that ultimately will allow you to then take those answers, which will be near real time. We deliver via survey, and those responses are available daily, in your reporting package, so that you can be able to see how that customer is interacting. You can actually ask about their rebate journey, right? Was it easy for them? And be able to take actionable steps and engagement with that consumer multiple times. And then ultimately, you want to retain that customer and engage them into maybe your loyalty program, and then back into that cycle. So again, all of that data that we capture, we turn around and provide that back, so that we seed your CRM system. With some of the bigger brands that we work with, we are the number one source of information, new consumer acquisition information back into that brand, right? So they utilize it, and they use that, or they take that data and engage it in their marketing and loyalty strategies.
Absolutely. I mean, and this is, George mentioned, this is really kind of the most exciting thing when we look at this type of promotion. I imagine if you're able to, through the redemption process, capture purchase intent. You purchase paint. Why did you purchase paint? You're doing a home remodeling project, and as a result, are you looking at flooring? Yes, I'm looking at flooring in 3 to 6 months. Well, now a promotion can be sent to that person, or a reminder to purchase in 3 to 6 months. So we're really helping drive from what would have been a discount off of paint in one scenario to a complete customer lifecycle reward solution and promotion solution, all just by changing your promotion type. So it's really exciting, and a lot of amazing opportunities through the data that you're capturing.
Yeah, I really think that aspect of just the data capture, you just don't see that. And through instant discount, you might be able to get some data back if they use a credit card and you have that integration with possibly that retailer. But this is purely pulling the data back. And I see it both from the retailer and from the manufacturer side. Both are engaging and utilizing these to capture data to build that relationship with that consumer.
Mm-hmm. All right. Webinar poll number 2. We're really curious, has anyone in this audience ever used a rebate or reward-based promotion in their promotional toolkit in the past? Would love to see, is this something that you've tried before? So yes has jumped out in the lead.
Oh, wow. Yeah. I'm a little delayed. That's great.
All right, still gaining. All right, so we're seeing the majority of the audience that has answered has definitely leveraged reward-based promotions and rebates in the past. And I think it would be curious to see kind of when and what your results were, especially as George mentioned earlier, and the evolution. The promotions that we were running in 2008 and prior are definitely a lot different than how they are today with the advent of digital and mobile technologies. So exciting to see that the promotion has kept up with the needs of the consumer in the changing times. All right. So given what we talked about with the economic conditions and the some of the levers behind rebates, George, you want to take us a little bit about why rebate today? What makes this to be valuable in this particular timeline?
Yeah, I'd first want to just say that we're not advocating that you run rebates on all of your products, right? This is an opportunity to add this to your tool set, right? I am encouraged that there's 67% said they have used rebates in the past. This isn't your dad's rebate, or maybe in my case, my grandma's rebate, since I'm fairly old. But the concept is we're leaning in digitally. We want to make this quick, easy, but there are some real reasons to think and begin to look and lean in toward using a rewards-based promotion. And I think the first one is the idea of the excitement of getting a reward, right? And that reward, it's unique because we've seen this interesting phenomena, right? Where when a customer is engaged and a brand offers a reward to that customer comes back with that reward and spends it back at that retailer. If you're a retailer, if you're a manufacturer, the reward goes back to the retailer that they purchased that product from. So a couple things, right? Retailer, it's recycling those rewards and getting that spend back. That's awesome. And from a manufacturer, where you're getting pressed from that retailer of what are you doing for me lately? You're actually sending that customer back through those doors or online to purchase again, right? That's a great story. That's great to be able to offer and add. And then that retailer can track that customer coming back. So I think, as we talk about spend back, we have to talk about another concept or a word maybe that I've created myself is overspend, right? When you have a $25 reward on average or $50 reward and you go back into spend that card, typically you're going to spend more than that, right? And so then you have the overspend. Then they're breaking out another card and swiping that. And I think that's super important to, they're using that reward as a discount for their next purchase, right? So it is it's a life cycle concept, and it really rolls into increasing loyalty. So they've engaged the brand, right? I think this is excellent for new customers that are new to your brand. But then, in order to keep them and create loyal relationships is to bring them, offer them the reason to go back to your brand. And so we talk about rewards and we talk about the right rewards. A lot of retailers are using their own closed loop card. We do a lot of open loop prepaid cards. There are reasons behind that. We'd love to talk to you about all of the ways and all of the rewards that we offer and how to increase that loyalty and how to increase that spend back. And you do that in various ways. You have the ability to brand the card that goes out. You have the ability to brand the carrier that goes out. You have the ability to really customize the experience to that consumer, and being it might be your second or third touch point as a new customer. It's important to encourage that customer to come back into your store or engage with your brand. And then I think that the last component is just the insights, and I've hit on this a couple of times, but the ability to gain more information from customers and then be able to seed additional engagements with those customers, whether it's a promotion or whether it's just bettering your relationship with that customer, right? I think that is the key, and I think that is the game changer when it comes to this. Is we capture this information. We really need to work with brands, and brands are are building tight, and some of the best brands have the closest relationships with those consumers. I think some of the questions that we utilize is around charities, right? What interests those customers? Because I think therein lies the empathy, therein lies this experiential aspect of delivering a reward and getting to know your customer and how your customer is thinking and how your customer wants to be treated. So yeah. And I think, I think we touched on this a lot, but what is really happening today, right? And what's happening with reward-based promotions, digital is super important, right? We're all leaning into that. We have, as I mentioned, the integration. Well, first of all, POS systems have gotten a lot better on the brand side, and the ability to API into those POS systems, the ability to do everything for that customer that is so similar to an instant discount, right? And then to be able to deliver a reward that's unique and outside of the scope and it's secondary is a really interesting concept. We have, when we talk to brands and to customers, it's only digital. We don't like the concept of mailing in an old school rebate. We want the customer to be able to key in maybe their ticket, their receipt number, and that's it. And we do that with several brands where we're pinging the POS, we're pulling it back. Consumer simply just keys in their receipt number and snaps a picture of their receipt. We do everything on the back end. And then we deliver a digital reward out to that customer within days. I mean, I'd like to be able to see it where a customer goes, they shop, they walk out to their car, sit down, engage with on their smartphone for 3 to 4 minutes and submit. And then that reward shows up within 15 to 30 minutes later. That's where we're headed. That's where we're going to go at Blackhawk. The concept is there. And I think the reasoning behind it and the way it differentiates the instant from an instant discount is absolutely there too. It's just not a rebate anymore. It's a reward, and it's rewarding that customer to engage your brand.
Absolutely.
Hey, so, sorry, Scott.
No, absolutely.
No,
yeah.
I think, and I want to. I know I need to wrap it up here because we're going to the questions, but first and foremost, we know people want choice, right? And it goes back to the right reward at the right time. We can offer that. Give them the opportunity. They're in control. Let them pick a reward that they want. Data obviously is king. It's that is the concept coming out of all marketing campaigns and the ROI around marketing campaigns. And perception is everything. I think we've kind of lulled to sleep on everyday low price. Everyday low price is price. That's the price, right? I think the big brands of the world have driven that. And I think that there's not a lot of energy behind it. I don't, for the consumer, right? There's not a lot of excitement in doing that. We've seen actually some hybrid models where you offer a discount and you offer an overlay, which is a promotion-based reward. And so that you give that customer that wants to do a little bit more, wants to be that value seeker, a little bit extra. So I do think, engaging and getting the customer excited is key to brand loyalty.
Absolutely. Thanks, George.
Yep.
I wanted to just throw these stats out there and bringing it home. Again, bringing it back to the research, and because of the strategies and the tactics that George went through, here are some of the numbers that marketers are telling us that they're seeing. A 58% greater year-over-year increase in annual revenue. A 21% greater year-over-year increase in average profit margin per customer, and then a 13% greater performance and return on marketing investment. I think at a time where we're being asked to do more with less, by pivoting some of your promotions where they make sense, this is a great way to make up for that and capture some more ROI. So I know we have a couple of slides, but I think we're running a little slow on time. So we just had some takeaway slides, but I think we will, just real quick on the takeaways. Again, we're seeing that companies using reward-based promotions are enjoying that greater marketing performance, and driving that data and collecting that meaningful data is providing more strategic opportunities and more opportunities for loyalty. So we're talking about a promotion that is not a one and done. It doesn't end at the POS. It can live on. And then, we're really talking about how using a reward-based promotion boosts your marketing effectiveness, again, without increasing cost or impacting resources. So it's a fantastic way in these particular economic times to drive, greater awareness without having to sacrifice those costs. So with that, we really thank you, and we'll turn it over to some Q&A. We'd love to get some questions from the audience and see if we can answer them for you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Scott and George, for that presentation. That was really useful for this topic. So we have a couple of minutes left, 1 or 2 questions we can take. So let me check this out here. So the first one we have is, what are some examples of how you use remarketing to consumers who have submitted a rebate? Can either one of you speak to that? George, you want to take that one?
Yeah, so I think the concept of remarketing is really it's a very new idea when it comes to utilizing kind of AI or smart incentives. I touched on it a little bit in the presentation, but really taking taking the consumer demographics and then asking questions throughout the process, 3 to 4 questions, not a lot of questions. And then from those questions, directly seeding some marketing initiatives from that. So I believe it could be a whole nother hour-long presentation to talk to, and as we develop, I just think that is a very exciting time for us, and really taking and converging what we know about that customer, and then giving that back to the brand, and getting that seeded into certain initiatives, whether it's just getting them to sign up to their loyalty program, to a more extensive of what can we do better for customer, right? Approach. So really like it, and you'll hear more about that from Blackhawk.
Great. I think we have time for about 1 more question. This question is about spend back. Can you tell us a little bit more about spend back? And does that mean the consumer is likely to spend their reward at the same retailer where they received it?
Yeah, again, touch a little on this. It is unique. I've been doing this for almost 20 years, and the introduction of a prepaid card as the reward. We are seeing cards that go out that simply say reward card on it. It doesn't have any branding, and they're getting close to 12 to 15% spend back at that brand. So the customer is loyal to the brand that gave them that reward without even branding the reward vehicle. Right. So when you brand the reward vehicle, when you brand the carrier that reward is affixed to, that comes to that customer, we can see upwards to 50 plus. One of our brands is 63% spend back, and it's an open loop card. They can go anywhere they want, and they come back and spend it back at that brand.
Absolutely. And when you're combining that with the remarketing opportunities, it becomes this great cycle of driving more revenue and more opportunities to serve that customer.
Wonderful. Well, great. That's all the time that we have for you today, I'm afraid, but we really appreciate you presenting this to us. And it's particularly important right now in this economic environment to hear about these promotional strategies that have worked for your company. So thank you very much. Thank you, Blackhawk Network, as well. And thank you so much to all the attendees who have spent part of the afternoon with us. We really appreciate it. We'll see you the next time.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.